We would like to welcome you to the next installment of our series, Raising the Bar, a closer look at our focus area on bullying and school safety. Our presenters today are Danielle Derbow, researcher at the Learning Bar, who will be sharing what research tells us about bullying and school safety across Canada. Followed by myself, Stephanie Robinson, Account Success Manager at the Learning Bar. I will be discussing how you can use your Tell Them For Me reports to find out about bullying and school safety in your school or district. Finally, we will be listening in to a presentation by Shawna Packo and Wendy Lawrence of Roblin Elementary, who successfully reduced bullying and increased safety at their school through the use of Tell Them For Me. Without further ado, I am pleased to present Danielle Derbow.
Thank you, Stephanie. Welcome, everyone. As Stephanie mentioned, my name is Danielle Derbow, and I am the Research Coordinator here at the Learning Bar in Fredericton, New Brunswick. I will be discussing the research behind our bullying definition, as well as how we define the prevalence of moderate and high or severe bullying within our reports. Lastly, I will be sharing some of the findings from our national database of elementary and secondary students. There are a number of challenges in defining and subsequently measuring bullying. It is important that students understand the distinction between rough play, that is part of normal development, like mutual teasing or horseplay, and the behavior that falls into bullying territory. We typically hear a lot about what bullying isn't, and how this needs to be communicated with students through student prep prior to completing the survey. The children engaging in bullying may also not realize that their behavior is problematic and constitutes bullying. We tend to see this more so with cyber and social bullying, especially with younger students. The importance of repetition has also not received consensus. For example, some feel that an isolated act can be viewed as bullying by the child, while others argue that an act has to occur more than once for the child to be experiencing bullying. Bullying can also take many forms, and this list can differ from definition to definition, or province to province, for example, depending upon how broad or narrow they define bullying. However, bullying has traditionally been defined by three elements: aggression, so the intent to harm, a power differential between the bully and the victim, and the repetitive nature of the behavior. Further, four manifestations are relatively consistent across definitions: physical, verbal, social, and cyber. To ensure we capture the essence of how bullying is defined across Canada, we examined all the provincial definitions and looked for commonalities and differences. Further, our definition of bullying was expanded prior to the last school year, based on member feedback, as well as updated research, to include the position of power the bully has over the person being bullied. Our definition of bullying is the same for both our secondary and elementary surveys. Only minor changes have been implemented at the elementary level to ensure an appropriate level of readability. We further define or classify bullying into three categories: those who report experiencing any bullying, those who experience moderate levels of bullying, and those who experience high levels of bullying. Our elementary survey is typically administered to students within grades 4 to 6 and uses a yes-no response format. At the elementary level, students are considered to be moderate victims of bullying if they indicated they had experienced 2 types of bullying in the past 4 weeks. Students are considered to be severe victims of bullying if they indicated they had experienced 3 or more types of bullying in the past 4 weeks. Our secondary survey is typically administered to students within grades 7 to 12 and uses a Likert response format ranging from never or hardly ever to every day or almost every day. Students are considered to be moderate victims of bullying if they have experienced any physical bullying in the past month or any one of verbal, social, or cyberbullying more than once a week. Students are considered to be severe victims of bullying if they have experienced physical bullying more than once a week or any one of verbal, social, or cyberbullying at least 4 to 5 times a week. Students are classified as moderate or severe victims of bullying if they meet either of the requirements, so physical or verbal, social, cyber. I would now like to present some of the findings from our national database. The first graph reflects the percentage of elementary students who reported experiencing each of the 4 types of bullying over the past 4 weeks using a yes-no response format. As you can see, a higher percentage of students reported experiencing verbal bullying, so the line in orange, followed by social bullying in blue, physical in green, and cyber in red. This graph also shows the prevalence of results across the last 3 years, starting in the 2010-2011 school year. The prevalence of each type of bullying has remained fairly consistent across the last 3 years, and we can also see that verbal and social bullying have maintained the same trend in prevalence over time. So these two right here. This graph represents the percentage of secondary students who reported experiencing each of the 4 types of bullying. Interestingly, like elementary students, secondary students reported experiencing higher levels of verbal bullying, followed by social in blue, physical in green, and cyber in red. As you can see, physical and cyberbullying had almost identical prevalence rates. Encouragingly, the reported prevalence rates of each type have decreased since 2012. For this graph, we have narrowed the results to reflect the percentage of students who have been classified as experiencing moderate or high levels of bullying at the elementary level. These results indicate that a smaller number of students are experiencing high levels of bullying, so those are the students in orange, compared to moderate levels, students in blue, with a percentage around 25 for moderate and 10 for high. Again, these findings are presented across the last 3 years and have remained fairly consistent with a slight increase since 2012. Remember that students at the elementary level are only asked to report if they have experienced each type of bullying using a yes-no response format. So unlike our secondary survey, the prevalence of moderate and high are not based on the frequency of bullying. This graph reflects the proportion of secondary students who reported experiencing moderate and high levels of bullying across the last 3 years. Similar to elementary, a smaller number of students are experiencing high levels of bullying compared to moderate levels, with percentages around 22 for moderate and 11 for high. The prevalence rates are relatively low and have decreased slightly since 2012. For the next set of analyses, I will be focusing on findings from the 2012-2013 year so that we can break down the results by gender and grade. For this graph, we are looking at the prevalence of moderate bullying for boys and girls at the elementary level. Boys reported experiencing slightly higher levels of moderate bullying in blue compared to girls in green. And this trend is present across grades 4 and 5, and the difference is essentially eliminated by grade 6. As you can see, the prevalence rate for girls is consistent across each of the 3 grades, with an average around 24, with the prevalence rate for boys decreasing by almost 4 points. The prevalence of moderate bullying is fairly similar across males and females at the secondary level, with slight differences starting at grade 10, with males reporting higher frequencies than females. Again, males are in blue and females are in green. The prevalence of moderate bullying also decreases across high school, with a decrease of roughly 10 percentage points for females from grade 7 to 12, and a decrease of roughly 7 percentage points for males from grade 7 to 12. For this graph, we are looking at the prevalence of high bullying for girls and boys at the elementary level. Boys reported experiencing slightly higher levels of high bullying compared to girls. However, this difference is almost eliminated once students reach grade 6. Similar to our moderate bullying results, boys decreased from grade 4 to 6 by approximately 2 percentage points, while girls remained stable around 9 percentage points. For secondary students, males report a greater prevalence of high bullying compared to females, and this finding becomes more pronounced as they progress from grade 7 to grade 12, with a difference of 4 percentage points by the time they reach grade 12. So what can we take away from these findings? Both elementary and secondary students reported experiencing a greater frequency of verbal bullying, followed by social, physical, and cyber. Encouragingly, students are reporting lower levels of high or severe bullying in comparison to moderate bullying. The prevalence rate trends for males and females are fairly consistent, and this trend appears across all grades. The prevalence rates for each of the 4 types of bullying have remained fairly steady across the last 3 years, with declines appearing in the last 2 years for secondary students. Student perceptions of what is and what is not bullying likely influences their reporting and subsequent prevalence rates. This is likely a greater concern at the elementary level, as students continue to determine what is classified as normal behavior versus problematic behavior. Student preparation in regards to how bullying is defined should likely occur prior to any survey administration. I hope you've enjoyed this brief glimpse into the prevalence of bullying using the National TTFM database. If you have any questions regarding this section of the webinar, please do not hesitate to contact me using the information presented above. Now, back to Stephanie.
Once again, my name is Stephanie Robinson with the Learning Bar, and I will be sharing how you can utilize the Tell Them For Me reporting features to track bullying and school safety in your school or district. The focus area on bullying and school safety includes 2 of the school context measures under the domain of drivers of student outcomes, as well as the standard demographic drill down measures. All measures required for the output of the Bullying and School Safety Thematic Report are indicated by the X icon. Members who compose surveys can add additional measures to this component to build a survey that fits their school or district's needs. The focus area on bullying and school safety is available at the elementary level with an estimated time of 21 minutes and at the secondary level with an estimated time of 13 minutes. We base this timing off the 95th percentile, meaning that 95% of your students will complete this component at or under the estimated time. Before we begin our report demonstration, I would like to note that any data you see comes from the Learning Bar's Tell Them For Me demo district. We will start by taking a closer look at the bullying and school safety measures using our one-click report. As a reminder, the one-click report reports all survey results by measure. At the click of a button, you can quickly see how your students compare to the Canadian norm in regards to students who are victims of bullying and students who feel safe. Of note, the Canadian norm is not what you should necessarily be striving for, but does help to put your data into perspective and is considered a benchmark. The text on the left of the chart further breaks down your results by gender. The one-click report is a great report to start your exploration with, before diving into your other Tell Them For Me reports. The next example I wish to share comes from our interactive charts. I applied our drill down feature to further break down the result on students who feel safe at school by gender, and also applied the Canadian norm and replica line to give further context to the results. By doing so, we can quickly see that in both elementary and secondary school, male students feel less safe than female students. Also, overall, secondary school students feel less safe than elementary students. Through utilizing the interactive chart drill down feature, you can easily pinpoint these areas and apply focused interventions as necessary. Remember, the data within the Tell Them For Me reports is not the answer, but rather creates dialogue with school teams and students to bring about change in your school or district. In addition to having the ability to add comparison lines and drill downs to bring your data to life, there are additional features available within the interactive charts. In the top left corner of each chart, we have a camera and a question mark icon. The question mark icon is a great feature if you are looking for more information about any of our measures. Clicking on the icon will flip the chart over to reveal a description of how the measure is compiled and which questions contribute to the measure score. Clicking on the camera icon captures charts of interest into your very own scrapbook, a terrific tool for sharing results with your different stakeholder groups. As Danielle explained during the first segment of this video, our measure on bullying is reported as students who are moderately and severely bullied. You will notice on the left-hand dashboard that this measure has further breakdowns. This feature is not only available with our bullying measure, but some of our other measures as well, such as our measure on school safety. This feature is a great benefit as, by clicking on the links, you are presented with additional charts which help to bring your school's story to life. When you click on the breakdown by question link, a chart populates indicating how often bullying occurs in your school in relation to the 4 types of bullying: physical, verbal, social, and cyber. In the example provided here, verbal and social bullying are more frequent than physical and cyber bullying. When you click on the Further Details link, 10 additional charts populate which highlight various areas connected to bullying, including where bullying occurs, when bullying occurs, and how students respond to bullying. These charts provide item-level reporting, whereas the majority of results are reported by measure. Open-ended questions provide an excellent platform to gain direct feedback from your students. In addition to schools having the option to add up to 2 open-ended questions that fits their own school context, Included in each survey is the Learning Bar's standard question. Please tell us some of the things you really like about your school or things that would make it even better. In addition to having the ability to drill down student responses by grade and sex, there is a terrific feature called Word Cloud, which highlights the words most commonly used within student responses. Users can simply select keywords of interest, and by clicking on Submit, only the student responses that contain the keywords will populate. So, if you are interested in student responses connected to bullying and safety, simply select the keywords of interest and those specific student responses will be featured. As mentioned earlier, by selecting the measures from our focus area on bullying and school safety, schools and districts will receive a corresponding thematic report. This wonderful 4-page report is created and written by international educational scholar Dr. J. Douglas Wilms, who is the president and CEO of the Learning Bar. This report is comprised of a research component and pulls data directly from your results. This thematic report highlights the prevalence of school bullying, where and when bullying occurs, how students respond to bullying, measures to prevent bullying, students who feel excluded, and, at the secondary level, sexual harassment at school. Use this report to gain insight into the full scope of bullying and safety at your school or district. In regards to all the Tell Them For Me measures, not just the measures on bullying and school safety, the key is to regularly survey your students in order to gain insight into which areas you should be celebrating, as well as identifying the areas in which improvement is needed. Our first suggestion would be to adopt the notion of completing 2 snapshots within a school year. That is to say, you can survey your students in the fall, analyze your data, and apply the results to your school improvement planning. Then, in the spring, survey your students again using a subset of identified measures to see which interventions were successful and which areas still need work. To track short-term and long-term growth, you can apply the year-over-year comparison to this measure, a function you can perform in the interactive charts. You can compare up to 3 years' worth of data so long as you continually choose to survey on the same measure. By applying this comparison, you can see how your school has improved over the previous or over several years, which is terrific for short-term and long-term improvement planning. These are just a few examples of how you can use the Tell Them For Me reporting tools to track bullying and safety in your school or district. We do encourage you utilize these reports so that you can too see the story your students are telling you. Further to this, the Account Success Management team at the Learning Bar does offer debriefing sessions which provides more detailed support in examining your data. If this is a service you are interested in, please connect with your Account Success Manager. If you have any questions regarding this portion of the video, please do not hesitate to connect with me. Up next, to share their story, are 2 Tell Them For Me members from Roblin Elementary School, located in Roblin, Manitoba.
On behalf of Roblin Elementary School, myself, Wendy Lawrence, and our guidance counselor, Shawna Packo, would like to share with you our journey to reduce bullying through use of Tell Them From Me survey data. Our grade 7 and 8 students wrote the Tell Them From Me survey in June of 2012. From their responses, we began to see comments such as these. They need to pay more attention to school bullying. They have no idea what is going on with a few kids. I would like it if teachers did more about bullying rather than talking to the person, then letting it go. These comments, combined with the following data, concerned us. 24% of our grade 7-8 males felt that they were being bullied. 44% of our grade 7-8 females felt they were bullied. On average, 34% of our students in grade 7 and 8 were feeling bullied. We felt this was unacceptable. Our school division was in the process of implementing a safe and caring schools policy to help address school safety. We decided to include this as a goal in our school planning as well. We increased our guidance staffing time to a full-time position, with the increase in time being allocated specifically to school-wide and classroom-based interventions supporting anti-bullying awareness.
We included developing a behavior matrix in our school plan. All staff were taught to identify bullying and take all reports seriously. Teachers were given class time to take the Respect in Schools program. When bullying was reported, the focus was not only on helping the target of the bullying, but also the student who exhibited bullying behaviors in order to educate them and teach them how to meet their needs in a healthier way. The guidance counselor published a school-wide newsletter with information on what bullying was and how to report it. This was shared with all staff and students as well as our parent population and was linked to our school website. Each month, our school newsletter featured an anti-bullying message. Tell Them From Me gave us the jumping off point to hear our student voice. We talked to kids about bullying and how they felt about it in our school. Classroom programming was developed based on the feedback the students shared. Middle year students began taking on more purposeful and meaningful roles, like playground buddies, student council, and more frequent opportunities to teach and model positive behaviors for younger students. Middle year students planned and led school-wide activities used to promote anti-bullying, such as finding videos, making presentations, and performing skits. They helped plan school-wide activities such as Day of Pink Dance-a-thon, puppet show, cookie decorating, and mural making, all revolving around the theme of anti-bullying. Students at high risk of offending were trained to be playground helpers on the earlier side to build their confidence and reinforce positive playground behaviors. Classroom-based guidance programming concentrated on giving students all of the information and skills they needed to stand up to bullying. The guidance counselor met with parent council and shared the plan for the year. We set up information booths about bullying during times parents were in the building and used our website to give parents information about bullying. Stop a Bully online reporting was implemented in the school, and students were trained on its use and then taught other students how to use it.
Interventions were implemented throughout the 2012-2013 school year, and our grade 7 and 8 students wrote Tell Them From Me again in November 2012. The survey data verified that more students were reporting and feeling safe in our school. We saw an overall decrease of 24% in the prevalence of bullying activity. We saw a significant decrease in the indicators of an unsafe environment. Specifically, students were reporting a decrease in physical fights and threat-making behavior on school property. We noticed students were more equipped with positive skills to handle bullying, as verified by increased reporting and decreased ignoring behaviors. We used the opportunity to further collect data by generating a local option question to determine if students felt they knew what to do if they saw or experienced bullying, and we were pleased with the results. We continue to combat bullying at our school. We have found that 1 year of focused attention is not enough to stop bullying. Our Tell Them From Me results tell us that these interventions need to happen continuously in our school in order to sustain these results and to further decrease bullying. We continue to make school safety a priority at Roblin Elementary School, and Tell Them From Me has helped us measure the success of our efforts. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time today, and we hope you found this video on bullying and school safety informative. I would like to take this time to also thank my co-presenters, Danielle Derbow, Shawna Packo, and Wendy Lawrence. If you have questions about today's presentation, please contact the Learning Bar at 1-877-840-2424.